The first 30 minutes after you open your eyes are quietly rewriting how fast your body ages. Not your diet, not your workout, the specific order in which you do things between waking and breakfast. For anyone over 50, this window controls a hormone called cortisol, and if you handle it wrong, and most people do, you are speeding up cellular aging by a measurable amount every single day. There is a 2011 study out of Heidelberg University, tracking 200 adults, that found the shape of your morning cortisol curve predicted inflammation levels years later. You have been getting this backwards. Let me show you why. Here is what almost everyone believes. You wake up tired, so you reach for coffee. You check your phone to ease into the day. You skip breakfast because you're not hungry, or you rush it down standing at the counter. You tell yourself none of this matters much, because a morning is just a morning. That belief is comforting. It is also wrong in a way that compounds. Because your body does something remarkable in the moments before you even wake up. Roughly 30 to 45 minutes before your eyes open, your adrenal glands begin firing. They release a surge of cortisol. This is not a malfunction. This is your body's built-in alarm clock, a mechanism scientists name the Cortisol Awakening Response, and it is supposed to spike sharply within the first 30 minutes and then fall away like a wave receding from a beach. That rise and fall is the signal. It tells every cell in your body that a new day has started, that it's time to mobilize energy, to sharpen focus, to prepare. But here is the part nobody mentions. After 50, that clean wave starts to flatten. The research is still evolving on this, but multiple studies suggest the awakening response weakens and drags out with age, and the daily choices you make in that first half hour either restore the wave or crush it flatter. Most people spend decades crushing it and never once connect their afternoon fatigue, their poor sleep, their thinning skin, or their stubborn belly fat to the 20 minutes after their alarm. The real question is why your body cares so much about this narrow window, and the answer involves a system most doctors never studied in medical school. Think of cortisol not as a stress chemical, but as a conductor. Picture an orchestra. Before the music starts, one person raises a baton, and in that single motion, dozens of musicians who were sitting in silence suddenly lift their instruments and prepare to play as one. That is what your morning cortisol surge does inside your body. When it rises sharply, it synchronizes your liver, your immune cells, your fat tissue, your blood pressure, and your brain, all of them checking the same clock at the same moment. When the surge is sharp and clean, the whole orchestra plays in time. When it's flat and smeared across the morning, the musicians drift, each one keeping its own private time, and the music becomes noise. This synchronization has a name. Scientists call it your circadian rhythm, and it is not one clock. It is thousands. Nearly every organ in your body runs its own timekeeper, and there is a master clock sitting in your brain, in a cluster of about 20,000 nerve cells behind your eyes called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That master clock has one job: keep all the smaller clocks pointing the same direction. And what your morning routine does, for better or worse, is either help that master clock set the time, or scramble it. Now here is where your choices come in, and where it gets personal. When you wake up and immediately grab your phone, you flood your eyes with a specific problem. Not just blue light, the timing. Your master clock reads light through your eyes to figure out what time it is. But it also needs something else first. It needs a clean cortisol spike, undisturbed by an incoming rush of information, decisions, and low-grade stress. When you open a screen full of emails, headlines, and messages within seconds of waking, you are asking that orchestra conductor to raise the baton while somebody sets off a car alarm in the concert hall. The cortisol still rises. But now it rises tangled with a stress response you triggered artificially, and your body loses the ability to tell the difference between "it's morning" and "there's a threat." A team at the University of British Columbia has spent years studying how morning light exposure resets the human clock, and the pattern that keeps appearing is this. The body reads natural light very differently from artificial light, and it reads light on the horizon, the kind you get outdoors, as far more powerful than anything on a screen or ceiling. Outdoor morning light can be 10,000 lux or more. A bright indoor room? Maybe 300 to 500. Your phone at arm's length? Barely a flicker by comparison. So when you try to wake your brain up by staring at a small bright rectangle, You are giving your master clock a whisper when it needs a shout, while simultaneously loading it with stress. It is the worst of both worlds. And this matters more after 50 for a mechanical reason. The lens inside your eye yellows and thickens with age. By your 60s, some research suggests the amount of blue light reaching the clock-setting cells at the back of your eye can drop by half compared to your 20s. So the very signal your body most needs to keep its clock synchronized, morning light, is arriving dimmer and weaker precisely when you need it most. Your internal timekeeping was already fighting an uphill battle, and most people, without knowing it, make that battle harder every single morning. But this is only half the story. What happens at the cellular level when these clocks fall out of sync is far more disturbing. Let me take you inside a single cell, because this is where aging actually happens, and this is where a scrambled morning does its quiet damage. Inside nearly every cell in your body sits a set of genes that switch on and off across 24 hours, like the tumblers in a lock rotating into position. Two Nobel-worthy discoveries. The 2017 Nobel Prize in Medicine went to 3 researchers, Hall, Rosbash, and Young, for exactly this. Showed that these clock genes control an astonishing share of everything a cell does. When to repair DNA, when to burn fat, when to divide, when to clean out damaged parts of itself. In some tissues, up to 40% of all active genes follow this daily rhythm. 40%. That is not a minor housekeeping function. That is the schedule your body runs on. Now, imagine what happens when the master clock in your brain says it's 7 in the morning, but the clock in your liver, thanks to a scrambled cortisol wave and a late chaotic breakfast, still thinks it's the middle of the night. This is what scientists call internal desynchronization. Your organs stop agreeing about what time it is. And a body whose organs disagree about the time is a body in a low, constant state of stress. Your liver tries to release sugar for morning energy, while your muscles aren't ready to receive it. Your immune system starts a repair cycle at the wrong hour and leaves inflammation running when it should have shut down. Depending on who you ask, some researchers now believe this internal disagreement is one of the underappreciated engines of aging itself. If you've ever felt wired but exhausted, dead tired at 3 in the afternoon, then suddenly wide awake at 11 at night, this is what's happening inside you. That is not weakness. That is not a character flaw. That is your orchestra out of time. Your afternoon crash and your midnight second wind are the same problem wearing 2 different masks, a cortisol curve that has lost its shape. And here is where I need to be honest with you about the stakes, because this connects to something you can see in the mirror. Cortisol, when it stays elevated at the wrong times, flattened out and dragging through the day instead of spiking and falling, does specific, measurable damage. It breaks down collagen, the protein that keeps your skin firm and your joints cushioned. It encourages fat to store specifically around your abdomen and organs, the most dangerous place to carry it. It interferes with the deep sleep where your body does most of its repair. A chronically flattened cortisol rhythm has been linked in several studies to higher inflammation, poorer memory, and faster physical decline. The thinning skin, the stubborn weight around the middle, the foggy afternoons. For a great many people over 50, these are not separate problems. They are symptoms of one underlying issue, and that issue is being set, or scrambled, in the first hour of your day. If this is making sense so far, and you want the part that actually fixes it, the exact morning sequence that rebuilds the cortisol wave and resyncs your internal clocks, subscribe now, because that section is coming in just a few minutes, and it is the reason I made this whole video. It costs you nothing, and it keeps this kind of research coming. Now, none of what I've told you so far fully matters until you understand one more piece: what your nervous system is doing in that first hour, between the moment you wake and the moment you eat. Because there is a second system running underneath all of this, and it is the one almost nobody talks about. It's called your autonomic nervous system, and it has 2 branches that work like the accelerator and the brake pedal in your car. One branch, the sympathetic, is the accelerator. It revs you up, speeds your heart, tightens your muscles, gets you ready to move and act. The other, the parasympathetic, is the brake. It slows you down, calms your heart, turns on digestion and repair. Overnight, while you sleep well, the brake is supposed to be doing most of the work. As morning comes, the accelerator gently takes over. A healthy morning is a smooth handoff. Brake fades, accelerator engages, and you rise into the day feeling clear. But here is what almost nobody realizes. The main cable carrying the brake signal is a single remarkable nerve, the vagus nerve, that runs from your brainstem down through your chest and into your gut, touching nearly every major organ on the way. Researchers measure the strength of this brake using something called heart rate variability, the tiny variations in the gap between your heartbeats. High variability means a strong, responsive brake. Low variability means the brake is worn thin. And here is the sentence that should stop you cold. Heart rate variability declines steadily with age, and a scrambled, high-stress morning drives it down further, faster. Read that again. Every morning you start in a rush, phone in hand, cortisol tangled with stress. No light, no calm, no water, straight into the noise. You are grinding down the very brake pedal your body relies on to recover, to digest, to repair, to age slowly. You have been wearing out your own brakes and calling it just how mornings are. So the question becomes, if your body has this built-in system for rising cleanly into the day, this conductor and this brake pedal and these thousands of tiny clocks, how do you actually work with them instead of against them? How do you rebuild the wave? Here is the protocol. It is not complicated, and it costs almost nothing. But the order matters more than any single step, because you are trying to send your clocks a clean sequence of signals in the exact window they're listening. Step 1. Before you touch your phone, sit up. The moment you wake, resist the reflex to reach for the nightstand. Instead, sit on the edge of your bed and take 5 slow breaths. In through the nose for a count of 4. Out through the mouth for a count of 6. That longer exhale is not a wellness gimmick. A longer out-breath directly stimulates the vagus nerve, gently engaging your brake as your body wakes, so the accelerator doesn't slam down all at once. 30 seconds. That's all. You are telling your nervous system, we are safe, and we are starting the day on purpose. Step 2. Get light into your eyes within the first 30 minutes. Real light, outdoor light if you possibly can. Step outside. Stand on the porch, in the yard, by an open door. Even on a gray, overcast morning, the light outdoors is many times stronger than anything inside your house. Aim for 5 to 10 minutes. You don't stare at the sun, never that. You simply let the bright sky fill your field of vision. This is the single strongest signal you can send your master clock. And remember, after 50 your eyes need a stronger dose to get the same message. Dr. Sachin Panda, a circadian researcher at the Salk Institute in California, has spent much of his career showing how powerfully morning light anchors the entire day's rhythm. This is the step most people skip, and it may be the most important one you take. Step 3. Drink water before coffee. Not instead of, before. You wake up mildly dehydrated after a night without fluids, and dehydration alone raises cortisol. A large glass of water first thing helps your body clear the night and lets your natural cortisol wave rise on its own terms. Then, if you drink coffee, wait. Give it 60 to 90 minutes after waking. Here's the mechanism. Caffeine blunts a chemical called adenosine, but early in the morning your cortisol is already doing the waking work. Pile caffeine on top of a natural cortisol peak, and you blunt your body's own rhythm, then crash harder later. Delay the coffee, and it lands when your natural energy is starting to dip, right where you actually need it. Step 4. Move your body gently within the first hour. Not a workout, movement. A 5-minute walk, some slow shoulder rolls, a few minutes of easy stretching. Movement in the morning reinforces the cortisol wave the right way. A clean spike followed by a clean fall, and it tells your muscles' clocks that the day has begun. If you can combine this with your outdoor light, even better. You are stacking signals. Step 5. Eat protein within about 2 hours of waking, sitting down, not standing. Your muscle-building machinery, which fades with age in a process called sarcopenia, responds best to protein earlier in the day. A breakfast with 25 to 30 grams of protein, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, gives your body the raw material to protect the muscle you're otherwise losing after 50. And sitting down to eat calmly keeps that vagus nerve brake engaged so you actually digest what you eat. If even one of those steps was new to you, hit the like button. It's a small thing, but it tells the algorithm to put this in front of more people over 50 who are quietly wearing down their own systems every morning and have no idea. That's the whole reason this exists. Do these 5 things, in this order, for 2 weeks, and pay attention to your afternoons. Most people notice the 3 o'clock crash softening first. Then sleep gets deeper. The changes are not dramatic on day one. This is not a switch. It is a wave you are slowly teaching your body to make again. Now step back with me for a moment, because there's something larger here worth sitting with. We tend to think aging is a thing that happens to us. A slow, unstoppable weather system rolling in whether we like it or not. And some of it is. You cannot stop time. But a surprising amount of what we call aging is not the calendar. It is a loss of rhythm. It is thousands of tiny clocks slowly drifting out of agreement, year after year, one scrambled morning at a time, until the body that once played like an orchestra is playing like a crowd. The remarkable thing, the genuinely hopeful thing the research keeps pointing toward, is that rhythm can be restored. Your clocks are still there. They are still listening. They are just waiting to be told, clearly and gently and at the right hour, what time it is. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the one thing in this video you wish you'd known 10 years ago? I read them, and I promise the answers will surprise you. I'd bet most of you have felt that afternoon crash for years and never once connected it to the 20 minutes after your alarm. Share this with someone you love who's over 50 and always tired by noon. It might be the most useful thing you send them all year. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you should. What I've been researching for next week goes one layer deeper, into what your body does between 2 and 4 in the morning. And it changes how you'll think about sleep entirely. Because here is the truth I want you to carry out of this. Your body never stopped keeping time. You just stopped setting the clock.